Okay. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. We're going to call the meeting to order. We'll do a roll call, please.
Member Chaplin,
Here.
Member Covert, Member Dessart,
Here.
Member DeCiani, Member Eckhoff, Member Elliott,
Here.
Member Hart, Member Healy, Member Krajewski, Member Larson,
Here.
Member Noonan, Member Ozog,
Here.
Member Pachalski,
Here.
Member Renahan,
Here.
Member Rutledge, Member Selman,
Here.
Member Tornatori, Member Zay. Short quorum.
Okay, we do have a quorum. We will need to proceed under 7E. Is it? So we'll have to take a roll call vote. We do not have a physical quorum, so we'll have to do that. Do we have anybody signed up for public comment? Have anybody signed up for public comment? All right, we have no public comment. On to chairman's remarks, just a couple of matters. We'll be passing the health department's budget today. We've got an update on our CARES Act funding and the expenditures we've authorized for local government. And as you've all heard over the last few days, the governor, in response to the current COVID-19 numbers, has reimposed some very serious restrictions on our bar and restaurant industry here throughout the state, which is impacting our friends, our neighbors, and so forth throughout DuPage County. And so we have put together a proposal for your consideration, which would take $2.5 million that we previously authorized under the CARES Act funds for the small business relief program and divert that or refocus that money to support our bars and restaurants in particular. The money that we've authorized to date was $19 million plus $1 million for advertising and so forth under the program we're doing jointly with Choose DuPage. In consultation with Greg Bedeloff from Choose DuPage, he indicated, based upon the last round, the last couple of rounds of review of the submissions that he had, that he thought he would only end up spending about $500,000 of the $3 million we most recently authorized. He had thought there would be more, but the rejection rates were higher than he expected. And so we thought this was a good way to help some really severely impacted industries here in the county. So that will be up for consideration today. And then we will move forward with our tax levy consideration and so forth today. So a lot of matters to cover. We will move on to the discussion of the CARES Act and the local government expenditure update.
Good morning. My name is Mary Catherine Wells, and I'm the Deputy CFO here at the Finance Department for DuPage County. Since April, I've been working almost solely on the county's response to the COVID-19 pandemic, including administering $161 million allocated to the county from the CARES Act. Today, I'm going to talk to you about a portion of that money, the $49 million that you and the board allocated for the local government purposes. As you might recall, that $49 million breaks down as 43 for the municipalities, 3 for the fire protection districts, 1 for the park districts, and about 2 for the townships. We've been working since over the summer. We hired a team from Guidehouse to help us set up and administer the local government program. With their help, we've contacted every local government, notifying them of the program. We've collected pre-application documents such as W-9s and IGAs. We've helped them to register the local governments on SAMS.gov. We've created an online application for processing the reimbursements. And we've provided individual webinars, 2 for the municipalities, 1 for the other groups. We've worked individually with staff throughout the county via mail, email, and the phone. And we set up sort of soft deadlines of September and October for their submissions, depending upon when we did the original webinars. We followed up on those where we didn't receive applications. And as we approach the December 30th deadline, we're going to be following up probably on a weekly basis with those that haven't submitted yet. So that's kind of where we've been. If you can show me the first slide. This is a relatively brief presentation. Let's see the second slide, I guess. It's just going to summarize each of the 4 local governments and where we are with these groups. On the slide slide's divided into two parts. So on one side, you've got all the firms or all the municipalities that have submitted to us. And on the right side, you have all the municipalities that haven't submitted. The way this works is you can see on the top of the slide, we gave the municipalities, or the board allocated $43 million to the municipalities. So in the bottom of the left-hand side, you can see it's about $39 million. And then under the no submissions box on the right-hand side, that's about $4 million. That's how you get to your $43 million. The in-process category means that they've submitted something to us, but it could be at a couple different steps. In general, things go from our guidehouse team for eligibility, then they come to the accounts payable group, then they come to me in finance for review and approval, and then finally they go to internal audit who approves them. And then it follows the usual pay list process. So that category can be a little bit broad. The last category is, the second to last category shows, what's been paid or what's on the pay list. We did training for the municipalities first, and we actually did two webinars for the municipalities. So the training happened on August 24th. As a result, the municipalities are the furthest away. They're the kind of furthest along in the submission process. The ones that are highlighted in grade have submitted or billed out for their entire allocations. Bloomingdale, Bolingbrook, Glen Ellen, and Westmont, shown under the no submissions, have yet to submit anything. And in general, I would say about these that they've submitted requests for relatively a wide range of items, such as PPE, cleaning supplies, their payroll, capital projects, and economic development initiatives. Next slide, please. Second slide shows the fire protection districts. You approved $3 million for the fire protection districts. We did the training for this group in September 2nd. The districts that are highlighted in gray have submitted or billed out for the entire reimbursement. In general, the fire districts are using their payroll expenses to draw down their allocations. I have Alex Kluge here from Guidehouse. He's a key point person that's been working on this, and he was telling me yesterday that we have two more, Lyle Woodridge and West Chicago Winfield, that he spoke with yesterday, and they're wrapping up their applications. So those are expected in the next couple of days. Next slide, please. The third slide shows the park districts. You approved $1 million for this group. We did training for the park districts on September 30th, which is relatively recent, and I think partly explains why the list on the right, the no submissions list, is longer. In general, the park districts are submitting for PPE, cleaning supplies, telework, cleaning services. Based on our initial submissions, that there are a number that exceed the total amount of what we allocated. So we don't anticipate any problem with the park districts being able to meet their cap. Last slide, please. This last slide shows that you allocated a little over $2 million for the townships. We held the townships also, the webinar meeting on September 30th also. To date, we've only seen a few small requests, and those include PPE, cleaning supplies, and food pantry support. I didn't include a follow-up slide to show you what these total, but I did run the totals. And as an overview, the board allocated $49 million. Right now, we have about $40 million that's in process in some way. It's been submitted to Guidehouse, it's review with me, it's in review with the internal auditor. And then, so 40 million in process. Then there's 9 million that hasn't been allocated as a total, which leaves about, that's about 9 million equals about 20%, where we haven't seen any submissions yet. So I think you can see from the slides that the municipalities make up most of the money, and they've done a good job at submitting their requests to date for us. So that concludes my presentation. If there are any questions.
Does anybody have any questions or comments about this presentation? Member Chaplin.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I just have one question. So we have about 20% that have not submitted anything. So what happens if by the end of the year they don't submit anything? Are their funds gone, or what happens with that then?
I can address that. We've given them the opportunity. Again, these are not allocations in the sense that we're just writing them checks. They have a cap they can submit against. If they fail to do that, then the money reverts to us. We have a plan in place to sweep all that money to compensate for our first responder expenditures through the Sheriff's Department at the end of the year. So we're hoping and encouraging the folks that we've been trying to help with these monies to get those out there. As some of you may recall, we also had in place a program whereby the townships that did not expend their full allocations after the end of, I believe, November, the other townships who still had excess expenses could tap into that extra pool of money because some of them had food pantries and some of them do not. So that might account for some of it. But for those who just don't take advantage of the opportunity, the money to them will be lost, and we'll keep it here.
Thank you.
Member Dessart.
My question is, what is your best guess as to why these governmental bodies would be leaving money on the table?
I don't know that we know yet whether they are, as was mentioned, some of them, because we authorized certain of the expenditures later than others. For instance, the park districts, the training that they had was later. And so it took them a little longer to get their expenditures in. As for those who just aren't seeking all of it, maybe they just feel like they don't want to spend the taxpayer dollars if they haven't actually legitimately incurred COVID-19 related expenses. I don't know. It seems like an opportunity that should be taken advantage of. They all have their individual decision-making in that regard. And Member Pachowski.
You know, I'm concerned because we have collective bargaining going on right now where there's been a big issue as far as retroactivity. I mean, the Convo Center, it's been over a year. Sheriff's been over a year. And these are frontline people. I'm thinking that maybe we should use some of this money for that issue of retroactivity when those collective bargaining agreements are finally resolved, and I hope favorably for everybody.
I think we will have reasonable amount of unexpended resources unless we manage to get some sort of a vaccine program started. I don't see any other major expenses on the horizon that would soak up the remaining dollars that we have, and we built in a $10 million contingency. And so there should be money left over to address a number of priorities at the end of the year, barring some other requests that may come in between now and then.
Yeah, I agree. With the more recent federal guidance, we anticipate being able to draw down the entire amount of money by December 30th.
Any other questions or comments from the board on this? Member Renahan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a question in terms of real life. You know, when I see like Addison, Carroll Stream, they haven't really drawn down much at all. Realistically, when's the last date for processing that they'll be able to realize those funds?
Well, we would like to set a deadline of December, the beginning of December, that everybody has submitted to us where they are in terms of their encumbrances, their contracts. So we're envisioning a reporting date of the beginning of December so that we can plan for things. The IGAs do have the date of December 30th. So we're going to work with everybody to make sure that we're all on the same page. If people notify us by the beginning of December that they're not going to be able to pull down their funds and they don't have eligible reimbursable costs, then we'll revisit that with the board. Obviously, that's a board decision.
Okay, so they're giving a lot of fair warning that it's time and they can't come in December 29th and everyone's jammed and Guide House can't handle it.
Right. And but we have a pretty good online process for getting things through the door relatively quickly. So expenses are based on incurred expenses. But with that said, we plan to be following up. We have followed up with the municipalities on a regular basis. And as we get further along, we really, from here on forward, we plan to be following up weekly with everybody that's on the list that hasn't submitted anything. So we should have a pretty good idea where people are. And at this point in time, we do. For example, like we've worked really closely with Woodridge. We know that they're almost ready to submit their information. So I think we'll have a good idea.
Okay, thanks for all you do.
Member Krajewski, then Member Zay.
Real quick, the question or issue, the money has to be expended by December 30th, all of our CARES money.
Yes.
And so the example we get.
Incurred.
Okay, that was my question. So we get to December 30th and we have 15 million in all kinds of pots, the contingency, towns didn't ask for it. We've incurred at least that and many more just with our sheriff's department since. So does it really matter? I mean, we get to December 30th, whatever's left over doesn't really matter. It's just going to go to us to cover our sheriff's budget, which is, you know, several millions of dollars. We've incurred the expenses. We've paid them just out of a different pot. So I would think we get to December 30th, whatever's unspent, we just take, and I know you said reference that, but we just take it for ourselves. And it doesn't matter because we've incurred way more than what we have left already, because the guidance says public safety is considered COVID related. So our sheriff's budget from March till the end of the year is 25, 30 million.
Yeah, we have a plan in place to sweep up the remaining funds that aren't allocated. Obviously, we try to accommodate a lot of people and help them, and we hope they will take advantage of that so that the money just isn't left at the end. We've tried to be very generous with our municipalities and local governments, and we still want them to take advantage of that. There are accounting requirements that we have, and the auditor's working really hard on this. And
sure, but the question becomes, whatever's left at the end of it, December 30th, it's unspent.
It's not going to go to waste.
It's not going to matter because we've already incurred way more than that anyways in public safety.
That's correct.
So it'll just come to us. So it's not like we got to worry that somebody's not getting in by it. So it doesn't matter because whatever's left right now, we've already incurred way more than that. So it'll come to us.
Yeah, it only matters in the sense we would hate to turn somebody away who has a legitimate expense and had trouble getting their submission in, but at some point, reasonable accounting practices.
But the issue becomes it can come to us.
Right.
And if somebody didn't get it, it's our money now, but we can just next year, here it is. I mean,
theoretically, that might be a little more complicated to allocate
really,
the money that way.
It's just moving it from a different part of our revenue source, save money, but we can do that.
Okay, Member Zay, then Member Ozog.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, thank you. And again, I know some of the comments have been, you know, some of these municipalities. I mean, obviously, I got the list the other day. I've called several of my municipalities, reminding them that this needs to be in. I mean, I would suggest that to all of the board members to remind your municipalities, park districts, townships that this money's out there, and you know, get your paperwork in and get that money. I'm sure they all can use it. So, you know, that's I think would be a good follow-up for all of us. And again, we did go over, you know, if there's money left over. We heard, you know, from Nick talk about it, you know, PPE stockpile, we put 3 million in. That money is running a lot cheaper. PPE is a lot less expensive. So there is going to be money no matter what happens. I think at the end that we're going to be able to sweep to pick up our expenses for our public safety, for our sheriff. So I don't think we need to worry that much. We just want to make sure that the money we've allocated to these other governments, that they take advantage of it. And if they don't, we've given them plenty of fair warning. And then at some point we can't hold it anymore. And we're going to have to use it for our expenses at that point.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody who doesn't realize that we have an end of year deadline. If they leave us in the lurch, then it's just going to happen. Member Ozog.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, Mary Catherine, from one Mary Catherine to another. I really want to thank you for all that you've been doing. I can only imagine. But my question is, would it seem, I would like to see a hard deadline set for these municipalities that have not responded, including my hometown of Glen Ellen. Set the date as December 1st. That gives about 5 weeks for submittal and, you know, tie this up, because I'm frankly pretty surprised to hear that these municipalities and townships have not, and park districts have not come forward yet. So I know you guys are doing your part, but I think a hard deadline would be a good thing to set, and I appreciate your work. Thank you.
We have been talking about that internally. The board may see something along those lines in the next couple weeks.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Let's see where we are in 2 weeks, and if it still is in critical mode, hopefully all of those folks are paying attention to what we do here on the county board, and getting the message that they're running out of time. And as Member Zay said, hopefully you're reaching out to all of your constituent municipalities and governmental agencies and saying, you know, get on the ball here because you're running out of time, and we can't dump 50 things in the auditor's lap on Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve and say, fix this for us. So if by 2 weeks from now we still don't have it resolved in a solid fashion, then we're going to need to do something. But the IGAs technically said, you know, right. So technically, if the submissions are in, I don't know, but people need to be realistic about that. So anyway, Member Chaplin, then Member Elliott.
Thank you, Chairman. I was kind of surprised to hear that Member Zay received a list of the municipalities that haven't submitted yet. I think it's important that all of us are getting the information at the same time in order to reach out to our municipalities and our park districts and our fire districts, because we don't want to make it look like some of us are, not paying attention or don't care. But if we don't all get the information, we all can't advocate for our municipalities. So I just think that's really important that we all get the information at the same time.
I believe it was, but I'll let Member Zay respond.
Mr. Chairman. Member Chaplin, I think this was sent out. I am the vice chairman of the committee, and, this was sent out to the rest of the board members for today. So that's nothing that I'm going off of. I think any information that nobody else got at that point. So
you just called them yesterday? Or did you get this much more in advance than we did, or?
I just texted the Carroll Stream Park District this morning. If you want
Okay.
to my phone.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Thank you. Thanks for clearing it up. It sounded like you had called them a while ago, so thank you.
No.
Member Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree that we ought to be communicating with these municipalities, and I think we ought to be very clear in saying, December 1st is really the target if you want to be assured of getting it processed and any questions or reconciliations done. I sense maybe a hesitation to do that, and I'm a little puzzled by that. I think we should be communicating through the county very aggressively to them. The good news is, by the way, I spoke to Glen Ellen this morning, and they're going to be submitting this week, but we don't want any of this to slip between the cracks. So I don't know why we would wait 2 weeks to see what develops. I agree with Member Ozog. Let's get out there and start talking to them now.
Well, we've been talking to them. As Mary Catherine said, we've been talking to them for a long time. We've been communicating to these folks. We've been doing follow-ups and that sort of thing. I don't know from a legal perspective, and maybe our state's attorney can speak to this, or our auditor, but the issue is the IGAs that were issued said December 30 is the deadline for some of this stuff. I don't know if we can unilaterally just say, well, now you have until December 1, and if you haven't submitted by then, you don't get anything. We're working on that. So we're working on that. All right. So obviously we have legal and logistical and practical issues that we're trying to do, but the message that's loud and clear out there for those who are paying attention is get your submissions in. Don't wait. All right. Any further questions, comments, thoughts on this? Thank you very much. We appreciate your hard work on that. Okay, with that, we move on to the approval of minutes. I entertain a motion to approve the minutes of Tuesday, October 13, 2020. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, we need a roll call.
Member Zay. Member Chaplin.
Aye.
Member Covert.
Aye.
Member Desart.
Aye.
Member DeTiani. Member Eckhoff. Member Elliott.
Aye.
Member Hart. Member Healy. Member Krajewski. Member Larson.
Aye.
Member Noonan. Member Ozog.
Aye.
Member Pachelski.
Aye.
Member Renahan.
Aye.
Member Rutledge. Member Spellman.
Aye.
Member Tornatori.
Okay, all ayes, those are approved. On to budget transfers. I entertain a motion to approve budget transfers. We have a motion and a second to approve the budget transfers as presented at FIR 58720. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none. Roll call, please.
Member Tornatori. Member Zay. Member Chaplin.
Aye.
Member Covert.
Aye.
Member Desart.
Aye.
Member DeTiani.
Aye.
Member Eckhoff. Member Elliott.
Aye.
Member Hart. Member Healy. Member Krajewski. Member Larson.
Aye.
Member Noonan. Member Ozog.
Aye.
Member Pachelski.
Aye.
Renahan.
Aye.
Member Rutledge. Member Selman.
Aye.
Okay, all ayes, those are approved. On to procurement requisitions. We'll start with Animal Services. Chairman Krajewski.
Get a motion for ordinance amending our chapter 26 of the DuPage County Code.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this item. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, we need a roll call.
Member Krajewski. Member Larson.
Aye.
Member Noonan. Member Ozog.
Aye.
Member Pachowski.
Aye.
Member Renahan.
Aye.
Member Rutledge. Member Selman.
Aye.
Member Tornatori. Member Zay. Member Chaplin.
Aye.
Member Covert.
Aye.
Member Desart.
Aye.
Member DeCiani.
Aye.
Member Eckhoff. Member Elliott.
Aye.
Member Hart. Member Healy.
All ayes is approved. On to Economic Development, Chairman Elliott.
Mr. Chairman, I would bring a motion to combine and approve items 8B 1 through 4, EDP 28520, approval of a contract purchase order to Parents Alliance Employment Project, EDP 28620, approval of a contract purchase order to the DuPage Regional Office of Education, EDP 28720, approval of a contract purchase order to Parents Alliance Employment Project, and EDCO 2720, amendment to a contract issued to World Relief DuPage Aurora for youth training services.
Okay, we have a motion to ask for a second. Member Ozog, are you going to want to take one of those out?
Yes, I'd like to take out number 2.
All right, then I will amend my motion to cover just 1, 3, and 4.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve 1, 3, and 4 as articulated. Any discussion as to any of those? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, please.
Member Ozog.
Yes. Aye.
Member Pachowski.
Aye.
Member Renahan.
Aye.
Member Rutledge. Member Selman.
Aye.
Member Tornatori. Member Zay. Member Chaplin.
Aye.
Aye.
Member Desart.
Aye.
Member DeCiani.
Aye.
Member Eckhoff. Member Elliott.
Aye.
Member Hart. Member Pachowski. Member Larson.
Aye.
Member Noonan.
Okay, all ayes. Continue, Member Chairman Elliott.
About that. I would bring a motion for passage of EDP 28620, approval of a contract purchase order to the DuPage Regional Office of Education for youth training services for in-school youth for a contract not to exceed $232,370.
We have a motion and a second. I see we have discussion. Member Ozog.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As my former role as a board member for the Glenbard High School District, I know that the Technical Center of DuPage, which is up on Swift Road, provides technical training for numerous DuPage County high schools. And I'm questioning if there might be some redundancy involved in this effort. And I would like to know if the Regional Board of Education is working in tandem with the Technical Center of DuPage, which is already a standalone, very successful project and a great coordinating effort between numerous high schools. And I don't know if there's an answer I can get or if
I don't know if anybody's on the line.
Member Ozog, this is Lisa Shavak, the Executive Director of WorkNet DuPage. The youth contract, when we put out our request for proposals, the submission from Regional Office of Education is a dropout prevention program. So it's students that are at risk of not completing high school. So it is not redundant with the work that TCD does.
So you would be serving a different population than the, TCD is part of the academic day for these students. So this is a different population?
Correct.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
No problem.
Member Chaplin.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Just a quick question too. Do you know about how many students participate in this program that we do here?
This is our first program year doing this exact program with the Regional Office of Education. They are currently doing outreach to students. And I think that the pandemic and how that's affected the school system has affected their outreach to some degree, but they are currently conducting outreach and screening candidates for eligibility for entry into the program. I can get back to the board with the exact number that have already started. I do know that so far they're a bit under enrolled, but these contracts extend out. So they do have, this is on a rolling basis. They have time to get more students.
Okay, great. And okay, thanks so much, Lisa. Appreciate it.
No problem.
You had further comment? Member Ozark?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So when you say open-ended, there is not a end date for when these funds can be used? Because I'm thinking that your response may be difficult this year at best. Would you roll it into next year's budget for this same program? Is that the general plan?
Yeah, it's definitely, obviously, our youth programs are more heavily affected perhaps than anything else that we're doing, specifically the ROE program. Our federal grants are a 2-year grant cycle. So we do have time, this can extend on. And what would occur is if it is clear at some point, let's say after the conclusion of the first program year, that the funds are not going to be expended, what we could do is just recapture those dollars and use them elsewhere on individual training accounts for eligible WIOA youth, or different, contract modifications to other providers and things of that nature. So the funds will not be lost, so to speak.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further questions, comments, discussion? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, please.
Member Elliott,
Aye.
Member Hart, Member Healy, Member Krajewski, Member Larson.
Aye.
Member Noonan. Member Ozak,
Aye.
Member Pachelsky,
Aye.
Member Renahan,
Aye.
Member Rutledge, Member Selman,
Aye.
Member Tornatori, Day, Member Chaplin,
Aye.
Member Covert,
Aye.
Member Desart,
Aye.
Member DeCiani,
Aye.
Member Eckhoff.
Okay, those are approved. And that's it on economic development. So on to Health and Human Services, Chairman Tornatori.
Items C1 through 4 under Health and Human Services.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to combine and approve those 4 items. Any discussion as to any of them? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, please.
Aye.
Member Zay. Aye. Member Chaplin,
Aye.
Member Covert,
Aye.
Member Desart,
Aye.
Member DeCiani,
Aye.
Eckhoff, Member Elliott,
Aye.
Member Hart, Member Healy, Member Krajewski, Member Larson.
Aye.
Member Noonan. Member Ozog,
Aye.
Member Pachelsky,
Aye.
Member Renahan,
Aye.
Member Rutledge, Member Selman.
Aye.
All ayes.
Okay, all ayes, those are approved. On to Judicial and Public Safety, Chairman Eckhoff.
First move to discharge the JPS committee for agenda item number 1.
Right? We have a motion and a second to discharge committee as to item number 1. Any discussion? Can we do a voice vote on that? Just discharge committee? No? All right. Any
Sorry.
discussion? We need a roll call on discharging committee.
Member Eckhoff,
Aye.
Member Elliott,
Aye.
Member Hart, Member Healy, Member Krajewski, Member Larson.
Aye.
Member Noonan. Member Ozog,
Aye.
Member Pachelsky,
Aye.
Member Renahan,
Aye.
Member Rutledge, Member Selman,
Aye.
Member Tornatori, Member Zay, Member Chaplin,
Aye.
Member Covert,
Aye.
Member Desart,
Aye.
Member DeCiani.
Aye.
Okay, all ayes, the discharge, the committee is discharged for number 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move approval of JPS agenda items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
All right, so we have a motion to combine and approve agenda items 1 through 6 under Judicial and Public Safety, with number 1 being discharged by committee. Any discussion as to any of these items? Seeing and hearing none. Oh, we got a second. Okay, sorry. Motion
Yes.
second. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, please.
Member Eckhoff,
Aye.
Member Elliott,
Aye.
Member Hart, Member Healy, Member Krajewski, Member Larson.
Aye.
Member Noonan. Member Ozog,
Aye.
Member Pachelsky,
Aye.
Member Renahan,
Aye.
Member Rutledge, Member Selman,
Aye.
Member Tornatori, Member Zay, Member Chaplin,
Aye.
Member Covert,
Aye.
Desart,
Aye.
Member DeCiani.
Aye.
Okay, all ayes says.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I should have made my motion to discharge for 1 and 7, but I will now make a motion to discharge JPS committee for 7. Oh, my God. One mistake in 18 years. Give me a break.
Mistake in 18 minutes. Who are you kidding? All right, we have a motion to discharge committee as to number 7. Do we have
I'm
a second?
telling you, I get no respect.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Member Eckhoff,
Aye.
member Elliott,
Aye.
member Hart, member Healy, member Krajewski, member Larson,
Aye.
member Noonan, member Ozog,
Aye.
member Pachowski,
Aye.
member Renihan,
Aye.
Salmon,
Aye.
member Tornatori, member Zay, member Chaplin,
Aye.
member Covert,
Aye.
member Desart,
Aye.
member DeCiani.
Aye.
Okay, all ayes. This committee is discharged.
I would move for approval of JPS 28-20 resolution for a change order amending a contract to Allied University Security Services.
We have a motion and a second on number 7. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none. Roll call, please.
Member Eckhoff,
Aye.
member Elliott,
Aye.
Hart, member Healy, member Krajewski, member Larson.
Aye.
Member Noonan. Member Ozog,
Aye.
member Pachowski,
Aye.
member Renihan,
Aye.
member Rutledge, member Selman,
Aye.
member Tornatori, member Zay, member Chaplin,
Aye.
member Covert,
Aye.
member Desart,
Aye.
member DeCiani.
Aye.
Okay, all ayes. That is approved. We're on to Public Works. Newman.
Thank you, Chairman Larson. Under Public Works agenda, I move for approval on FMP 28220, recommendation for the approval of an agreement between the County of DuPage and Earthwise Environmental.
Are we going to try to combine and approve any of those? Or?
Well, I'm sure. How about motion to combine and approve agenda items 1 through 4?
1 through 4.
We'll
Okay.
take 5 separately.
Gotcha. All right, so we have a motion and a second to combine and approve agenda items 1 through 4 under Public Works. Any discussion as to any of them? Member Desart.
Yeah, I'd like to pull out number 3, please.
Okay,
Voice vote.
sure. So why, you want to amend your motion to combine and approve agenda items 1, 2, and 4?
Correct. I'll amend my original motion, motion to combine and approve agenda items 1, 2, and 4.
Got a second? All right, we have a motion and a second to combine and approve agenda items 1, 2, and 4. Any discussion as to those? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, please.
Member Noonan,
Aye.
member Ozog,
She said aye.
Aye.
member Pachowski,
Aye.
member Renihan,
Aye.
member Rutledge, member Selman,
Aye.
member Tornatori, member Zay, member Chaplin,
Aye.
member Covert,
Aye.
member Desart,
Aye.
member DeCiani,
Aye.
member Eckhoff, member Elliott,
Aye.
Hart, member Healy, member Krajewski, member Larson.
Aye. Okay, all ayes, those are approved. Vice Chairman Noonan.
All right, under item number 3 under Public Works, I'll move for approval on FMCO 2620, the amendment to resolution FMP 18920 issued to White Construction Services. This one's a COVID item and the contract in the amount of $450,000 to allow for construction of an additional courtroom for the 18th Judicial Court. Total amount not to exceed $20,700,000, an increase of 2.22%.
Now we have a motion and a second on this item. Discussion? Anyone? Seeing and hearing none? Roll call.
Member Noonan,
Aye.
member Ozog. Member Ozog,
She's,
Mute.
2 in a row, I'm sorry. No.
member Pachowski,
Aye.
member Renihan,
No.
member Rutledge, member Selman,
Aye.
member Tornatori, member Zay, member Chaplin,
No.
member Covert,
Aye.
member Desart,
No.
member DeCiani,
Aye.
member Eckhoff, member Elliott,
No.
member Hart, member Healy, member Krajewski, member Larson.
aye. 12 ayes, 5 nays. Matter is approved. Vice Chairman Noonan.
Thank you. This next item, before I introduce it, I had the opportunity to speak to Public Works Director Nick Kottmeyer and staff, and along with the Fair Association. I think everyone's on board. We're looking to amend this resolution here to extend it to a 3-year contract, 3-year lease extension up till September 30th of 2023. So the way it reads, I'll entertain a motion to amend.
Well, first,
Any discussion?
please move approval of the
Move for
resolution
approval.
as presented.
Okay, move for approval on PWR 51120, resolution second amendment to the lease dated April 6, 1976 between the County of DuPage and the DuPage County Fair Association, 2-year lease extension.
Okay, we have a motion and a second discussion. Do you have a motion to amend?
Correct, motion to amend.
Okay, if you could just clarify what the amendment would be.
I'll entertain a motion to amend.
I'll entertain you. Move it. You just move. You're saying entertain a motion. Yeah,
Oh,
saying
I'm
you
sorry.
just move.
I amend.
Yes,
Okay,
move to amend.
move to amend item PWR 51120, instead of a 2-year lease extension to a 3-year lease extension till September 30th of 2023.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to amend the proposal on the table to extend it an additional year to September 30th,
30th,
2023. So just on the amendment, any discussion? Member Krajewski.
Yeah, I know we talked about this last meeting and we voted, I think 11-7 to keep it at a 2-year. And at our Public Works meeting, Chairman Healy, who's not here right now, he also stated that at the meeting that he has asked Chairman Cronin to put together a committee to look into the operations of the fairgrounds. His suggestion was 6 district members, 6 residents. He volunteered to be the resident since he'll be leaving the board in a few months to be the resident there. Whether we approve him or not if he comes back, but so he had asked the chairman to do that after this vote. I think 2 years gives us the flexibility if we want to make changes on how the operations are going out there to maybe give more groups in the community a better opportunity to use it. We can always extend it 1 more year, but I think giving us the flexibility to make changes. As we saw the financials given to us, the fairgrounds lost money for 3 consecutive years, increasing that loss every year until this last year where they got the money from the state of Illinois, $200,000 approximately, with no fair. So that was able to bail them out of the financial difficulties. So I think given the past history, I think, putting the committee together like Chairman Healy suggested, with county board members and residents from each district and looking if there's a better way to operate the fairgrounds where it can be more financially stable. We can then, after 2 years, if we want to continue on the method, we can continue to lease it out. But I think that he's short-sighted in his board to lock up that property for 3 years, given the past history of the financial condition and, the operations there. So I would be voting no on this amendment.
Okay, thank you. Member Chaplin, then Member Ozark.
Thank you so much, Chairman. Excuse me. Can we hear from staff a little bit about the additional year? I know that I believe there's some logistics that works better for us, for our staff with COVID and everything going on, that additional year really helps out the county. I don't want to go back with Jim McGuire and hash this out again. I think we had a memo saying that, all parties were okay with the 3 years. So we can hear from staff a little bit about that extra year, going back to the 3 years. I would appreciate it.
Kottmeyer's here to comment.
Can everybody hear me okay? All right, Member
Yes.
Chaplin, yes, great question. So we have, just to give everybody a little bit of a background, after the last Finance and Public Works, we've been working with Jim McGuire with the Fair Association with the amendments to the contract that Mr. Eckhoff recommended, and we've come to an agreement on all the wording. He has asked that instead of a 2-year, it would be a 3-year, taking it basically through September of 2023. Staff actually agrees that that's a good idea with respect to negotiation, because if we had a 2022, we would likely have to start negotiations in January of this next year, and we would very much like to get past COVID before we get to that. It is my understanding, Chairman Healy was interested in forming a group, but I thought that was for the longer term lease agreement with the fair. This is kind of a stopgap in the middle one. But obviously the 2 years is what you have in front of you, and the 3 years has been requested by the Fair Association, but we would concur with the 3 years.
Member Rozak?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had spoken with Mr. McGuire, and at this point, none of us can predict the future for next week, not to mention 8 or 9 months from now when the next fair would be potentially scheduled. But the main consideration here is that this gives the Fair Association an ability to plan perhaps 2 or 3 year contracts with vendors, quilt shows, that sort of vendor where they may be able to commit to this, yet knowing that next year is probably going to be extremely unstable. We may be continuing COVID testing there. I certainly agree with Mr. Krajewski about keeping an eye on financials and usage of the fair, but I think at this point, a 3-year, a contract for 3 years right now would make the most sense in terms of all the unpredictability about COVID. Thank you.
Any further questions, thoughts, comments on the amendment? Seeing and hearing, Member Krajewski.
One last thing, we were here with COVID, but this thing, when it originally came a few weeks ago, the Public Works was an 18-month extension. Isn't that right, Nick? The original thing that came to County Board from your staff and the negotiations was an 18-month that came to our Public Works Committee. It was amended at that meeting to go to 3 years.
Correct.
So
It was actually,
all this COVID and all the negotiations that you spent, I don't know how many months and months and months, the staff came back to us with the initial, 6 weeks ago, initial 18 months. And now, we've extended 3 years, then we voted last week to bring it back to 21, 28 months, back and forth. So, your staff initial recommendation in COVID and everything was agreed upon 18 months.
You're absolutely correct. It was 18 months, and then I think it went to 3 years. There was talk about 4 years. Just given everything right now with COVID and in talking with Jim McGuire, I don't think we're going to lose that much because negotiations wouldn't start till mid-year next year. So by that point, it's going to take us a while to get there. But, obviously, yes, we did come originally with 2 years, but we do think 3 wouldn't be a bad idea.
Okay, any further questions or comments with respect to the amendment? Member Eckhoff?
Knows he and I and Mr. Healy had been negotiating with the county fair authority for a 5-year lease that we weren't able to bring about because we ran into problems with the county fair not wanting to give up the footprint they have. They have 45% of the property, the county property here, part of which goes through the parking garage next to the courthouse. There was some discussion regarding a kick-out clause, and my thought was, I'm willing to go along with staff if they really are that set on a 3-year. But my thought was a 2-year because we should get these other issues resolved that I didn't make an amendment to just because it seemed like we were pushing it out. But we have offered them a 5-year proposal, which was rejected. So just so everybody knows what's going on.
And I understand your proposals were to address the immediate concerns of the neighbors in the area about noise complaints and alcohol and that sort of thing.
Right, but any long-term thing regarding the size of the footprint, the kick-out clause, those were more county concerns for use of the property.
Krajewski, again, just on him.
Why we don't get that addressed? That's to the benefit of the county, the footprint and the property, and why we continue to extend stuff out longer when, if we're going to do that and give them an extra year, we should make that a condition upon getting the footprint fixed. I just don't understand why, it's our property. We've leased it out through the end of December. We got some issues with footprint and other things. Why we would continue to, if we're going to give an extra year, let's get that footprint figured out. It's our property. It just doesn't make sense.
Any further questions or comments on the amendment, the proposed amendment to extend it a year? Seeing and hearing none, roll call.
Member Noonan.
Aye.
Member Ozog.
Aye.
Member Pachelsky.
Aye.
Member Renahan.
Aye.
Member Rutledge. Member Spellman.
Aye.
Tornatori. Member Zay. Member Chaplin.
Aye.
Member Covert.
Aye.
Member Hart.
Aye.
Member DeCiani.
Aye.
Member Eckhoff. Member Elliott.
Aye.
Hart. Member Healy. Member Krajewski. Member Larson.
No. 15 ayes, 2 noes. The amendment is approved. Now we're back to the original proposal as amended. Any further discussion on the proposal of the lease as amended? Seeing and hearing none, we will call on that.
Member Noonan,
Aye.
Member Ozog,
Aye.
Member Pachelsky,
Aye.
Aye, I can't hear you though.
oh, I'm sorry, Member Reinihan,
Aye.
Member Rutledge, Member Selman,
Aye.
Member Tornatori, Member Zay, Member Chaplin,
Aye.
Member Covert,
Aye.
Member Desart,
Aye.
Member DeCiani,
Aye.
Member Eckhoff, Member Elliott,
Aye.
Member Hart, Member Healy, Member Krajewski, Member Larson.
Aye. All right, again, 2 noes, the rest ayes. The amended resolution is approved. That covers Public Works. On to Technology. Chairman Hart.
Mr. Chairman, I move to combine and approve items 1 and 2 under technology.
We have a motion and a second to combine and approve those 2 items. Any discussion as to either of them? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, please.
Member Hart,
Aye.
Member Healy, Member Krajewski, Member Larson.
Aye.
Member Noonan, Member Ozog,
Aye.
Member Pachelsky,
Aye.
Reinihan,
Aye.
Rutledge, Member Selman,
Aye.
Member Tornatori, Member Zay, Member Chaplin,
Aye.
Member Covert,
Aye.
Member Desart,
Aye.
DeCiani,
Aye.
Member Eckhoff, Member Elliott.
Aye.
Okay, all ayes, those are approved. On to Transportation. Chairman Pachelsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move to combine, approve agenda items 1, 2, and 3 under the transportation agenda.
We have a motion and a second to combine and approve those 3 items. Any discussion as to any of them? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, please.
Member Pachelsky,
Aye.
Member Reinihan,
Aye.
Rutledge, Member Selman,
Aye.
Member Tornatori, Member Zay, Member Chaplin,
Aye.
Member Covert,
Aye.
Member Desart,
Aye.
Member DeCiani,
Aye.
Member Eckhoff, Member Elliott,
Aye.
Member Hart, Member Healy, Member Krajewski, Member Larson.
Aye.
Member Noonan, Member Ozog.
Aye.
Okay, all ayes, those are approved. And now we're going to put the vice chairman to work. Finance resolutions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to try to put these in groups. So if anybody wants anything taken out, please let me know. My first motion will be to combine and approve items A through G. These are all acceptance appropriations, scrivener's errors, and grant agreements.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to combine and approve agenda items A through G under finance resolutions. Any discussion as to any of these? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, please.
Member Zay,
Aye.
Member Chaplin,
Aye.
Member Covert,
Aye.
Member Desart,
Aye.
Member DeCiani,
Seem to have lost him.
Aye. Sorry.
Member Eckhoff, Member Elliott,
Aye.
Member Hart, Member Healy, Member Krajewski, Member Larson.
Aye.
Member Noonan, Member Ozog,
Aye.
Member Pachelsky,
Aye.
Reinihan,
Aye.
Member Rutledge, Selman,
Aye.
Tornatori.
All ayes, those are approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next group, I'm going to move to combine and approve items H through P. These are COVID, placing names on payroll, renewal of group insurance, and 1 amendment to procurement for crediting accounts. Oops,
Can we pull P, please?
sorry, P.
Yes, thank you.
So then I'll move my motion, I'll amend my motion to be H through O.
Member Desart.
Let's pull O too, please.
Okay, anybody else?
Going once,
So the
going twice.
motion will be H through N. And Sam, just don't say another one just to be funny.
We have a motion and a second to combine and approve agenda items H through N under finance. Any discussion as to any of these? Member Krajewski.
Quick, I know we got West Chicago on there, and we got individual municipalities coming forward, and I know we got one submitted from Fur Ridge coming up for 4 senior centers. So I would encourage people to support that one coming out. My district, great. Thank you.
Member Zay.
Yeah, I mean, we know we did get a letter in from Burr Ridge. I mean, this was a part of a member initiative. I know myself and member Larson reached out to West Chicago, having a high Hispanic population there and the issues they're going through. So again, this isn't just a thing that we're opening the gates here for a second allocation. These are through member initiatives that that county board members have been bringing forward. So I would hope that if your communities have something, that they reach out to their county board members for the member initiative dollars that we put aside.
Right, as we discussed when those other requests came in from Addison and Aurora and so forth, they were specifically targeted because the allocations we originally made were per capita without real consideration for the financial circumstances of the various towns and the populations and so forth. And in consideration of more specific areas, we were considering second allocations, although I cautioned and urged and said this wasn't the time for me too, and just to kind of try to justify more allocation requests from every town in the county, because that wasn't the purpose of the request. So I hope and expect that's not what we're going to get, is another round of people finding ways to justify requests for additional expenses for their towns. Everybody has other things they'd love to justify, but that wasn't the concept behind it. Member Krajewski.
I personally talked with the mayor of Burr Ridge, and the issue is, if you saw our health department statistics, 90-some% of the people that are getting COVID are from nursing home and long-term care facilities. They're not home rule. They don't have the ability of any other town. Their home rule. And that seems to be our most vulnerable population, is the senior and long-term care facilities, based on where we're contract tracing. They have 4 of those such facilities in Burr Ridge. And so that was kind of the rationale behind this middle, but it was a member initiative. I did talk with the mayor, who I think is to sit on this county board.
Okay. All right, well, right now the matters before us are H through N. Any further discussion as to those items? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, please.
Member Say.
Aye.
Member Chaplin.
Aye.
Member Covert.
Aye.
Member Desart.
Aye.
Member DeCiani.
Aye.
Member Eckhoff. Member Elliott.
Aye.
Member Hart. Member Healy. Member Krajewski. Member Larson.
Aye.
Member Noonan. Member Ozog.
Aye.
Chelsky.
Aye.
Member Renahan.
Aye.
Member Rutledge. Member Selman.
Aye.
Member Tornatori.
Okay, all ayes, those are approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move on FIR 61420, approval of second amendment to agreement with Choose DuPage, DuPage COVID Small Business Relief Fund, COVID item.
All right, we have a motion in a second. This is the item we talked about earlier in my chairman's remarks. Is there any discussion on this item? Member Desart, then Member Chapman.
Yeah, last Thursday, the board received a letter from Member Larson, which discussed the new COVID-19 mitigation restrictions imposed by the state on restaurants and bars, and put forth the suggestion of using $2.5 million for small business relief grant funds to go directly to bars and restaurants in DuPage County. The very next morning, Member Larson took it upon himself to go on Fox News Chicago and discuss his idea, his suggestion, an idea which had no board support, no board approval. Member Larson went on Fox and gave DuPage County bars and restaurant owners false hope that there may be money for them with no board buy-in. The idea may have buy-in from the board after today's meeting, but it did not on Friday morning. Then this morning, I opened my Daily Herald and I read about Member Larson again, giving false hope to restaurant and bar owners. And I'm just wondering, have the rules changed? Has the process changed, the board process? Is this how we're going to govern from now on? By skipping the board process and going directly to the media with our ideas and suggestions? Is this board going to legislate through the media? The 17 of us should be outraged to read about our board work in the paper. Switch the script. Imagine the fireworks if one of us had shared our ideas and suggestions with the press before we had board buy-in or board approval. So Member Larson showboated for the media because he's up for election. He was out of line. This is not good governance to go to the media instead of the board. Does the idea of targeting bars and restaurants with small business relief fund dollars have merit? Of course it does, but he had no right to give false hope to these businesses before he had the board approval. So let's talk about the Small Business Relief Fund for a moment. It's administered by Greg Bedeloff, as you said in your opening remarks, and his staff at Choose DuPage. In phase 1, the Small Business Relief Fund received $7 million. In phase 2, it received $9 million. Choose DuPage received $1 million for business and visitor attraction. And then on October 13th, just 2 weeks ago, Mr. Bedeloff requested a final $3 million, which he said at the time would satisfy all current applications to the Small Business Relief Fund. Applications, according to Mr. Bedeloff, would have a high number of approvals. He said the issue is that the rejection for phase 2 is nowhere near what it was for phase 1. He said it seems that phase 2 applicants are better prepared with their applications, perhaps because most have already gone through the PPP process. So 2 weeks ago, Mr. Bedeloff said, with the additional $3 million, we believe that we will have enough money to satisfy all who applied for those small business relief grants. So while some of us wanted to see that money go to food banks, homeless shelters, helping individuals and families, we as a board voted unanimously to help our small businesses with the additional $3 million to ensure that no one was left in the application queue. So this past Thursday, I contacted Greg and I asked him, if you needed $3 million 2 weeks ago to finish the small business relief grant process, where's the $2.5 million coming from for Bod's idea of the restaurants and bars getting the money? To which Greg replied, unfortunately, the rejection rate on the remaining 450 applicants we were reviewing skyrocketed to more than 70%. So he said that we're still reviewing them and they're still skyrocketing. So 2 weeks ago, the issue is that rejection for phase 2 is nowhere near what it was for phase 1. And then now 2 weeks later, the rejection rate has skyrocketed. So I'm not sure what to believe or where that goes. But per an email on Friday, rather than $3 million needed to fund all the businesses in the application queue, only $500,000 is needed. So I'd like to see that money back in the general CARES Act basket to help individuals and families through this crisis. And just some statistics here. The $20 million received by Choose DuPage to help businesses in DuPage County reflects 12.42% of the total CARES Act dollars that we were given by the federal treasury. 12.42% has gone to small businesses in DuPage County. So no one can accuse this board or any members of it for not valuing and trying to help our small businesses countywide. Another statistic, Mr. Bedeloff says that the more than 1,100 small business relief grants awarded, more than 150 restaurants and bars have received grants. So that's 13.6, almost 14% of the small business relief fund has gone to restaurants and bars. And I'm not sure what percentage restaurants and bars make up of small businesses in DuPage County, but 14% seems about right. So the bottom line is that I'm sorry that Mr. Larson took his idea to the media and gave DuPage County bar and restaurant owners false hope. That's on him. But we were asked months ago to submit our ideas, and we did. And they were incredible ideas on how best to help our constituents. So Mr. Larson's move feels like he's elbowing his way to the front of the line when all of us submitted our ideas on how to spend these dollars the right way with the right process. He's up for election in a week. I get that. He's trying to get his name out there. I get that. But politics has no place on this board floor.
First, I'll just say the dramatic irony of anybody on this board, you in particular, Member Dessart, lecturing anyone on this board about politicizing this board is hysterical. You are the most political member of this board. Various board members have at many occasions gone to the media on different issues. When the CARES Act money was first allocated, you sent a letter asking to be involved in the review process and copied the Daily Herald, the Chicago Tribune, and another media source so that you could get publicity. So for you to lecture me on politicizing this process, various board members at various times presented proposals. Member Selman came to me with a proposal for a flu vaccine.
Yes, go to the media. She went to you, not the media.
I'm speaking. Member Selman came to me with a proposal, and we worked together to do it. And there were releases about it, and there were discussions about it. So you're just wrong on the issue. I'm sorry you feel that you want to politicize the health and welfare of the bars and restaurants in this county because you'd rather try to deal a political defeat to a colleague on the board than actually help people in this county. I'm sorry, that's a shameful behavior on your part, but that's the way you've always behaved since you've been on this board. So we've all come to expect that.
Your words are vitriolic, Member Larson, and you are up for election and you're scared, and that's why you went to the media. Member Selman did not go to the media with her idea. She went through the correct process. You did not. So don't try to turn this around and point fingers at me.
Who's pointing fingers at who? You're the one waving your fingers and making a political speech. So we're done with it. We can get to the business of the board.
Member Larson, may I comment with my name being invoked, please?
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have found the way that you've ran this committee since March incredibly impressive. And I say that as a Democrat, and I think if we drew a Venn diagram of where we agreed, there would not be a whole lot in the middle between you and myself, Mr. Larson. I felt nothing but respect and frankly pride for the way our county took both my idea of this small business program, which came up early and other members ran with it and made it something that counties are now mimicking and hoping they can try to do as well. And our flu program, we were just told last week, Lake County is also taking this idea and running with it. I know election day is in a week. Everyone on this board knows that. I am begging both sides to try to find a little bit of calmness because everything else is chaos. This board since March has mostly been focused on the business, helping our small businesses, helping our residents, responding to social questions that came up this summer. And I would just beg both parties to remember, we've got a week left. We can do it. We really can. And I would commend Member Larson for his idea of reallocating some additional dollars. It was incredibly responsive to the need. I had followed up and asked Member Larson and Greg Bedeloff if they could also be sure to include some information on additional grants that were coming from the state. They said, absolutely. Well, we want to be a one-stop shop for our businesses. So I just want to thank Member Larson for his work on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Selman, Member Zay, then Member Tornatori, then Member Ozog, then Member Krajewski.
I mean, I know some board members haven't been here, but we were given this really big handout about where our CARES Act money was going. There is $10 million in contingency. Again, we have, I think, funded almost everybody that's asked for this. And I talked with our chairman on this. You know, we can debate if we think that the governor's shutdown is just. I do not think so. I don't see it, but we have to look at the over 4,000 bars and restaurants that employ our residents. And just not those people to understand the economic impact. It is the distributors that distribute meat, that distribute alcohol, that distribute pop, that distribute packaged goods. All these people are affected, just not bars and restaurants. You are talking a supply chain that is affecting tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people and businesses that do this. So if we can take some of this money that is there and try to help our businesses a little bit to keep them on life support. We don't know, again, they have been struggling because I think they have been unfairly targeted by the state, that you're telling me that you can't go to a bar or restaurant, but you can go to Costco where there's 300 people standing there in line or in the store, and that's okay. But again, the thing was to help people, help our businesses. Are $10,000 or $15,000 going to put them on an easy street? No, but it might save some of them for these businesses, that these family businesses that have worked their entire lives for, that just want a fighting chance. And we've seen business says, I'm not shutting down. I'm not going to get into that. This is about us helping our businesses and our people temporarily, hopefully, that this spike goes down and that they can reopen at some capacity. I don't think it's political. I think it's good government. I think we're helping people. We've been trying to help everybody we can and adjust on the fly. As members have said, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, the next day, next week, next year. But to quickly respond to an industry that is already hurt in our county and give this program to there, where DuPage said we had money, I think is good government. And I take that initiative. I think maybe Member Larson saying something and going out and talking about it maybe stopped a whole herd of other restaurants saying, you know what, I'm not going to follow the governor's rule. I'm going to stay open because I have to. And then we have even more of a spread. So possibly that would stop some of our business saying, well, if I can apply for this and I can get whatever amount of money, $10,000 to $15,000, whatever I can, maybe helps us a little bit. But again, to say it's political, I don't think anything our chairman has done is political. He's run this committee fairly since this epidemic has started, this pandemic. And to say that and to bring it up because it's election time has nothing to do with it. I think if anybody knows our chairman, he does not operate that way. And I think that was completely and totally uncalled for.
Thank you, Member Zay. Member Torrensori.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's, I was glad to see one of my seatmate, Member Selman from District 1, come up with a reasoned approach, as District 1 always does, to solutions to our problems. I'm not going to comment on the political comments that were made by Member Dessart, because I think I would be as out of order as she was in bringing it up. What I will say regarding the $2.5 million that was suggested by you is that we've got restaurants, a particular portion of the retail industry, hemorrhaging right now. They were hemorrhaging in the spring. They tried to open up in the summer. They were basically stuck with outdoor seating. They've lost their employees. Those people have tried to go and find other jobs. And now unilaterally, the governor, of course, imposed the order last Thursday. I'm somewhat conflicted as a member of the Health Department Board, because I understand the health concerns, but I also understand, and we also have to understand, that there is a certain amount of irony here that people can go to retail establishments where there are hundreds of people, and they can't go to restaurants, regardless of where the outbreaks may occur. At the end of the day, as Member Zay said, and I couldn't have said it better, $2.5 million or whatever we can give to these restaurants was probably one of the reasons that we didn't have anarchy over the weekend with restaurants who would have just given the finger to the governor and said, I'm staying open anyhow. Because that was the general attitude that I was getting from Friday morning until Friday night from dozens of restaurants who called me, some of whom were my clients, and said, I'm staying open. What kind of liability do I have? And my response was, don't stay open, because I don't think it's worth your liquor license, your gaming license, your food license, or anything else. And I don't want to be in your restaurant when the state police come in and shut you down. So the fact that Member Larson came up with this, which I think any of us would have come up with, but he's the chairman of the Finance Committee, and he did, not only is going to help our restaurants, and as members, they said, all of the people that are involved in those restaurants, the waiters, the waitresses, the cooks, the people the truck drivers who bring the food, the people who do everything that's necessary in order to keep that segment of our retail establishments alive. The reality here is that may not be enough, but it may be enough to get us through 2 weeks. And to suggest that Member Larson's idea here is anything other than altruistic, and his duty as the chairman of this committee in bringing it forward is patently absurd. And I commend Member Larson for doing what he's done. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Torrensori. Member Ozog, then Member Chaplin, then Member Kajewski, then Member Renahan, then Member Hart. We'll go around the room.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have several comments to make about this proposal. First of all, I am very puzzled about why Mr. Bedeloff decided why these businesses did not make it through the process, the $3 million that we had approved. The second group appeared to have made it through. What was the problem with these businesses so that we do have this money available? I'd really like that answered. Again, we're looking at a group, and again, I completely support the bar and restaurant industry, but there's also, we have 20% here, but that means another 80% of our businesses, and the businesses that applied were not going to get this money. So there could be an equity issue. The other thing, I cannot support this proposal unless we are only going to support compliant restaurants and bars. Now, you can argue until the day is over all week long about the governor's order. Okay, whether you agree with it or not, whether it stops spread, et cetera. But I'm going to tell you my personal experience. I have a son who works at Costco. Costco is compliant. You do not have hundreds and hundreds of people jamming aisles there. They have 6 feet notices all over the place. Everybody who works there and everybody who goes in there is wearing a mask. Okay. Now, my son is also 33 years old and lives by himself in downtown Glen Ellen and frequents some of these establishments. And in Glen Ellen alone, I could tell you 2 right now that are going to be compliant and 2 that aren't. And I'm sure the list would be interesting, to say the least. So my son is only coming in this house, which is very infrequent right now, with a mask on. And that brings me to my other issue. If the restaurants and bars choose to not follow the governor's order that was issued last week, which is again related to this pandemic, what's next? Do we stop wearing masks? Because I have to say, my personal experience is that DuPage County is pretty damn compliant about wearing masks. And right now, masks are about all we have to fight this pandemic, which has killed over 250,000 Americans so far. So we need to make sure that if we give this money to these bars and restaurants, they are compliant with the governor's orders, whether you like it or not. And the other issue is these, and I will say, Mr. Larson, it was not pleasant to read about your proposal in the paper this morning, where you say that there will be basically no strings attached. These restaurants and bars who do get this, these compliant restaurants and bars, need to show us their expenses before they are given this money. Who's to say you couldn't just take a $15,000 check and park it in the bank and you go belly up in 2 or 3 months and you've got $15,000 in the bank of our money, which was supposed to go toward servers, toward employees. So I need to see expenses. But again, they must be compliant. And whether we like it or not, the masks are another order. We are in a pandemic that is killing our neighbors, our relatives, our families. Thank you.
Thank you. Just briefly to address your last comment. First of all, I haven't read any story in the paper today. I was busy preparing to chair this meeting, but I never suggested that they wouldn't go through the same auditing process that we have so extensively employed for every other allocation of CARES Act dollars, from the review through DuPage, through our auditing service, through our own excellent county auditor, Bob Grogan. They're certainly going to go through that same process. But as with all of the other businesses who've been able to demonstrate revenue loss, the question was asked was, is it going to be tied to certain types of expenditures? And I answered that it was not. Just with all the other small businesses, we haven't said, here's the money that you lost revenue on. We're going to tell you can only spend it on this or that or the other thing. We haven't imposed those restrictions through our agreements throughout any of those expenditures. So we haven't done that. By the way, with respect to these media requests, I put out a memo to the board suggesting this, and then we got media requests, so we responded to them. I didn't go out to Fox News. I'd love to say I have the kind of cachet to just call up Fox News and say, hey, I want to get on TV. I didn't. We got requests for information. I got a request from the Daily Herald, and I don't think there's a member of this board who, if they received such a request, would say, thanks, I'll wait to see how the vote turns out. They would express their view on it as I did. But I did want to try to encourage and give some hope to the bar and restaurant community. And I'm hoping that this board won't make that a false hope, as Member Dessart apparently wants to do. So with that, I'm going to try to go around the room. I'll let you comment again towards the end, Member Ozak. But
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chaplain?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. So I agree with Member Ozak. I really think this program should only be open to restaurants that are compliant with the governor's orders. Like you said, whether we agree with them or not. From what I understand, the reason why bars and restaurants are having stricter, more restrictions is because people go in there, they sit, they socialize, maybe they have a drink. And after you have a few drinks, sometimes you let your guard down and you may not be practicing those social distancing guidelines as you should be, or you may not be wearing your mask. I don't think anybody set out to destroy the food and restaurant industry. I think the orders that are being put in place are for the good of all the people of DuPage County and the surrounding area. And I think as elected officials, it's our responsibility to make sure that we tell our constituents, please, yes, support your restaurants by carrying out, but do not go in and dine at a restaurant right now, because you are going to help spread the disease. Now, the best thing that we can do is take precautions right now, and maybe in a couple of weeks we can get those numbers back down to where things can start opening again. But everybody is going to have to step up and do their job and be responsible, because those numbers, 517 cases reported on Saturday from the DuPage Health Department. The facility was closed basically on Thursday and Friday, and we don't know what the numbers are going to look like later on this week. This is serious. Hospitals are starting to see more admissions. ICUs are starting to see more admissions. So everybody needs to take this seriously, but I would be happy to support this as long as we have a contingency in there that only restaurants that are following the governor's guidelines are eligible.
Majewski.
Yeah. Chairman, and I did not read the Daily Herald, so I didn't see the article. I didn't see on Fox either, but I do, just to get to the point of this, what we're looking at, I've had regular conversations with Greg Bedloff during the entire time with these programs, just with my background and especially doing a lot of tax returns. He's asked a lot of questions, and I know some of the rejections that came in recently were people that were over the 1.5 million cap that we had set. And they tried to make some arguments why they should qualify, even though their tax return may have said 1.65 million last year. So they didn't qualify because the revenue was too much. I did talk with Greg Bedloff, I think last week, maybe Thursday. He never mentioned that this was your idea, but he did say that they were looking at allocating that $2.5 million. One of the things that he was looking at is to raise that $1.5 million cap and look at some of the restaurants. And so he had asked me if I could reach out to a few of the restaurant owners to kind of see what their revenues would be. So specifically in downtown Downers, you're looking at like Foxtail, Capri, Cadence. Many of them do over 1.5. They're more in the 2+ million. So they tried to come up with a cap, whether it's 3 million, 4 million. So specifically, this one presented in front of us is 4 million. So that's going to take into some of these restaurants that are in various communities. They weren't eligible for the 1.5. They will be eligible under this program. And then the other issue is they do have to, at least what Greg was telling me, they do have to comply, same rules before, you have to show a revenue decline. And I think one of the issues becomes the revenue decline for what period, because we shut down in March and it's now in October. Just from some of the talking I've had with restaurants, it appeared in the March through May, when everything was shut down, that some of the typical more carry-out businesses with no seating did very, very well. The restaurants that had the seating couldn't have people in, so they didn't. So they had the big decline maybe in the first 4 months, but then when things opened up in the summer, a lot of the sit-down restaurants had outside seating, inside seating. They did very well. People started not going to the takeout places, so their revenue declined. So you're going to see some ebb and flows in these restaurants that submit to us. They may have no decline from March to June, but they'll have a big decline from July till now, or vice versa. The sit-down places were lost revenue in the first several months, did okay in the summer when they opened back up. So they do have to show a revenue decline. What period? I would just say that I would think that Choose DuPage should just be flexible. If they can show it anytime during this pandemic, whether it was the early part or the later part, you lost revenue, you qualified. I think it is good to go to the 4 million with the cap, or at least 3, if not we're doing 4, because some of the restaurants are, they're very thin margins. They have sales, but the food cost is substantial. So it's not too hard for a restaurant with, 50 seats or more to do over 1.5 million. And then the other issue you get into is, is it all the revenue that counts? A lot of these places have gaming machines. They come in, does that qualify for the revenue? Again, I think this is a good program. The Village of Westmont reached out to me and probably my other colleagues in the district, just their economic development tourism person, saying that they could really use this help. They have 100 restaurants in Westmont. They asked us to ask me, which I will, support this program. I think it's good. I do like what I heard from Member Ozog, Member Chaplin about compliance. I don't agree with the governor shutting it down, but he did. And so I think for us, if we give this money out to the restaurants, they have to certify that they aren't going to be open in defiance of the order to put that out. Again, I go back to the per ridge comment I made, looking at some of this contract tracing. The majority of our cases in DuPage are coming at our nursing homes, long-term care facilities. I think I saw very little coming from restaurants, but again, we don't have any control on what the governor does. But again, I support this program. I think the 4 million cap is good. I think that they should use any kind of decline, whatever period that they so choose from the original shutdown, March 17th, I believe, till today. If they can show at some point if they had a revenue decline, they should qualify for this. And again, I support this program wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Renahan, the Member Hart, the Member Rutledge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think just there's been a little bit of concern with process. And for me, it was, and I tried to reach out with Greg, and we'd kind of gone back and forth yesterday in terms of when the portal maybe should have shut. I think we really didn't probably receive the information we were we were actually due under the agreement that we have, Choose DuPage and the county. Maybe that would have helped us forecasting whether it was 3 million that we really needed, or maybe it was 500,000. That being said, okay, that's a process issue. Substantively, we know we've got a problem, right? We can blame the state. We can blame federal government for not passing the HEROES Act. We know thousands and thousands of people are having difficulty in DuPage County because the restaurants and bars are not open. I have a concern that if we're going to take $2.5 million, we split that by 15,000 a piece. That's 166 restaurants only, and we hear that there's 4,000 bars and restaurants. So I'm a little bit nervous that we're over promising here. If anything, I think we should think about bringing this as a bigger program because we just don't know how long it's going to last. And I also support the notion of anyone who's not willing to comply with executive order and protocols maybe should not be eligible for this program. You all got to work together.
Okay, thank you, Member Hart, then Member Rutledge, and then Member Ozog wanted to speak again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is about who we're helping. That's ultimately why we're here. I want to thank you for coming up with this program. You know, it's easy for us to sit in this room and squabble about who gets credit, who gets to be on the news. But I can tell you who doesn't care at all about who's on the news, and that's the struggling bars and restaurant owners that even prior to the pandemic were running on low margins and are now in increasingly declining margins. So I think it's about how we keep our eye on the ball to help those that need it most. And I fully support this program. I'm looking forward to going through the details, and some members have raised some good points here. But the reason we're having this conversation is because of in my view, a completely inappropriate discussion that initiated this discussion. It's not about who's on TV, it's about who we're helping. So let's all remember that. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Rutledge.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to say that, boy, I spent 15 years in the restaurant business and it's affecting my family members. So it is a big deal to those that are trying to get by even with the governor's order. I agree with everybody else that has spoken that I believe that we can only give this money to compliant restaurants. But I did want to point out, I have had several conversations with one of the mayors in my district in the last couple of days. I asked for a list of places that they have found positive tests, and I got that information from the health department with the caveat that contact tracing has not been very fruitful. So I just want to say to those that are saying that, you know, you can go to Costco, but you can't go to a restaurant. Those are totally different circumstances, and our contact tracing is not really backing up the supposition on those people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody who has not yet had an opportunity to speak, who still wants to speak? All right, Member DeCiani.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I fully support the program. This came up with the shutdown, and hey, we have to react and we have to be nimble and deal with the situation at hand. And I would almost like to lift our if they've already received money from us, if we have enough to get to make that happen. Just because I think that if there's any particular industry that's taken the beating during this pandemic, it's the restaurant industry. So and I agree with Member Zay, it's a supply chain all the way down. We're going to have a lot of homeless servers and bartenders and owners if we don't help out. So this is a really also with going into the cold months now, this level of confidence that we were just about ready to attain is basically gone flat. And I feel bad for these family-run businesses that are struggling. So I fully support it. I really like to almost, if they've already gotten 15 from us already, I think this industry is one that could probably come for a second round and be very deserving of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Ozog's been waiting for a while, so I'll let you go again, and then Member Pachowski. You're on mute, Member Ozog.
Okay, I just want to share with the board that Cook County, suburban Cook County yesterday was put under the same restrictions effective tomorrow. And I want to share from the Daily Herald this morning, a combination, and let's remember why any of this is happening. A combination of rising virus test positivity rates and hospitalizations caused the Illinois Department of Public Health to crack down, officials said Monday. The announcement comes after the state reported 4,700 new COVID-19 cases and 17 more deaths Monday. The number of new daily cases has increased 69% in October, 3,200 so far this month, up from an average of 1,900 between September 1st and September 26th. And that is why I, again, reiterate, I cannot agree to this unless it's compliant businesses, because there is a reason for all of this. And we all hate it. We're all tired of it, but it's a reason. And it's hospitalizing people. It is killing people. And we have to try to get it under control. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Pachowski.
Thank you. I think that we ought to go with this as proposed, and I agree with Member DeCiani that we should increase this. This is our industry that really is hurt the most. And I don't want to have the COVID police because I didn't do something, was compliant or not compliant. I don't think we're going to be able to do that. So my thought is let's make it as big as we can and let's expand it. And I also concur with what Commissioner Selman said in her remarks.
Okay. I think everybody's pretty much had an opportunity to speak. Let me just say, I have never spoken in an area suggesting that people shouldn't be compliant or that people shouldn't take this matter seriously. I certainly take the matter seriously. I have to be out in the community as well. I'm just trying to find a way to help these folks. This is a financial issue, not a regulatory issue. We have an opportunity to help an industry that's really struggling, and I'm hoping we can do that. With that, we have a few more people who still want to speak. So I guess before we go, Member Chaplin and Member Ozog again.
Well, just really quick, but in a way, it is a regulatory issue, right? Because we have the governor that placed the restrictions. And so now it's, I think it is kind of a regulatory issue because if we didn't have the restrictions, we wouldn't have to be doing this. So that is why I really wish that we would put something in place that, I don't think that we should reward bad behavior. And I think the restaurants that are following the restrictions, the guidelines should be eligible for this. But I just can't see giving a restaurant funding when they're blatantly ignoring the orders and staying open and, not doing their part to help stop the spread. So those were my only comments, and that's it for today. Thank you.
Thanks. Member Ozog, one last time. Go ahead.
I would like to make a motion that we amend this proposal to add that restaurants need to be compliant with the governor's order of October 23rd.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. I see discussion. Member Selman.
Mr. Chairman. While I conceptually agree that we shouldn't be giving money necessarily to businesses who are flagrantly, violating the governor's order, I don't see how we could actually do it though. Our health department is beyond maxed out trying to do contact tracing and testing as the winter months are approaching. I think it's been pretty, law enforcement maybe isn't the right enforcement method. So before we consider the motion, can we maybe nail down who would be doing the enforcing? Because I think it would either require extra money to choose DuPage in hiring or extra allocations at health department to hire staff. I just don't know if we could actually do it. Thank you, Chairman.
Member Elliott.
So I agree with Member Selman's concern and Member Pacholski's concern, which is how are you going to police this? When we did the $16 million or whatever it was, the $17+ million, we didn't have any stipulations in there that the businesses had to have proper social distancing and be using masks and all that stuff. And we didn't do it because the businesses needed the money and they needed the relief and there was no way we could police it. DuPage County can't become Dolores Umbridge, walking around and spying on everybody to make sure they're following all the rules. These businesses need this money. We need to get them this money, and we can't let the perfect become the enemy of the good here.
Okay. Member Chaplin, then Member Ozog to close on her proposed amendment.
I would just simply on the application, ask the question, is your business open or are you closed? Check one box. If they say they're closed and we find out they're open, they have to pay the money back. I mean, I think that's a simple way to do it.
I've got a bunch of people raising their hands. So
I'm just, something.
I understand. Just to let everybody go, and again, I'll let you close, Member Ozog, but before I do, several other people have asked to make comments. So Member Tornatori, then Member Rutledge, and Member DeCiani.
Conceptually, I agree with the compliance because I don't believe in anarchy and I believe in the rule of law. However, I don't understand, and there is no way that we are going to be able to monitor this. And quite frankly, Liz, if you just put down open or closed, everybody's trying to be open right now, whether it's for carryouts or whether it's for the exceptions under the meetings that you're allowed to have, or funeral luncheons or banquets. There's a lot of wiggle room in the governor's order right now for people to stay open and yet be compliant. So what I would suggest is that, yes, let's not make the perfect be the enemy of the good. Presumably, anybody who would make this application would get vetted through Choose DuPage and would be compliant. And perhaps that may be the question. Are you compliant with the governor's order as opposed to are you open or closed?
Yes.
Very difficult to determine. And again, what happens compliant when? Last weekend? Next weekend? 2 weeks from now? If they were non-compliance on Saturday and Sunday, but are compliant on Monday because they're afraid of losing their liquor license, are they compliant? I don't know. I mean, I think you're opening up the proverbial Pandora's box when you make that, to try to make that determination. But I think there could be and there should be a general understanding that this money is for the restaurants who are following the law and are doing what they can. And we kind of have to hope that we're not going to get inundated with people who are shoulder to shoulder at a bar and yet have the audacity to ask us for money. And I believe that Greg Bedeloff and his team can look into that without sending the restaurant police out to every one of these places.
Member Rutledge. Wait, hang on. You aren't done.
Can hear you.
Thank you.
There you go.
In response to Sam's question, is Greg Bedloff on the call, and how would Choose DuPage vet those who were compliant or not? That's my question.
Greg,
I am on the call. Everybody can hear me?
fire away.
Member Rutledge, before I answer that question, Member Ozog, the single biggest reason for the increase in the rejection rate was incomplete information. It's a two-step process where you put in kind of name, rank, and serial number information when you originally apply in the portal. And then you receive an email from Choose DuPage asking for additional financial documents. So towards the end of phase 4, which is the phase we're in right now, as I mentioned, we saw the rejection rates skyrocketing, and they did skyrocket. There's just no other way to explain it. They were humming along at 10 to 20% rejection rate, and they went to an 80% rejection rate. The two biggest reasons behind that were the applicants did not provide proof of revenue decline. That's one of the pieces of information that was required, or the applicant simply chose not to upload pertinent financial documents. Now, to Member Rutledge's question, to this point, we have used a certificate of good standing or a business license if a certificate of good standing is not available as the criteria for whether or not an applicant is even eligible for an award. With respect to moving forward and kind of policing restaurants, as Member Tornatori and others pointed out, many restaurants, as you know, are open for carryout, they're open for curbside, they're open for meeting and banquet space where they are serving food indoor as part of a meeting or a banquet space. As always, Choose DuPage will do everything that you guys ask us to do, and we will try our level best to figure out a way to make sure the program is implemented as you all design it. I will say that off the top of my head, I don't know what mechanism that we would have here at Choose DuPage, short of going out to the restaurants, visiting them, and seeing if they're compliant, kind of, I don't know, it was like a mole or a spy or something. And I don't know that we have the time to do that if the money needs to get into the hands of the businesses before the end of the year. But again, we're your administrators, and we will do our best to do it fluidly and efficiently as quickly as possible. I don't know if that answers your question.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you. But you brought up an important point, revenue decline. One of the reasons that the restaurants who are defying the governor's orders will not necessarily suffer revenue decline is because they are indeed keeping their dining rooms open. So I don't believe that they should be rewarded versus others who are not doing so. And the other issue is I'm not looking for a police force or anybody to be going out to acknowledge if they're following these orders or not. All you have to do is read social media, look at the newspapers. People are blatantly saying that they are staying open because of their freedoms. Well, I have a freedom as well to not get sick from them defying public health orders. This is being done for the public health. We should not be rewarding them. So I would like to have a vote on my amendment. Simply, isn't this not a legal document when you apply for funds and then you receive them? If they don't tell the truth, then they have broken the law by not, I'm not a lawyer, I understand that, but this is a legal document. They are supposed to tell the truth. Have it notarized or whatever that is required. But if they're not complying with this for this public health effort, because our rates are skyrocketing, they should not be rewarded. So I would like to have a vote on my amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And we simply ask on the application, are you complying with the governor's orders of October 23rd as of today's application? And if they've changed their minds and have decided to comply, then as of the date of the application, then they have done so. Thank you.
All right, I understand the proposed amendment, and there was a second on the amendment. Again, we haven't even gotten to the main vote on this yet. So Member DeCiani, I don't think had an opportunity to speak. I'm going to let him comment, and then I think everybody else, I know a couple of you have raised your hands, but unless you have very brief comments, I would like to call the question on this to move forward with other business. But go ahead, Member DeCiani.
I'll make my comment brief. I think the check balance that we have is Greg Bedalov and a revenue decline. If there's no revenue decline, if we see sales going up or even, actually they're not going to get the money. That means that they're open at a time when they should be closed. So that's our safeguard. We've already got it in place. I think this is overkill, and at this time, I don't think we want to overregulate a beaten up industry, and also something that we really can't tangibly do. So the safeguard of revenue decline is there. I've seen carryout restaurants get declined because their sales went up. So just because they're in an industry, we don't just give them money automatically. We got to, the procedure is there to see revenue decline, and that's our check. In my opinion, our balance of check and balance of making sure that the right people are getting the money. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Very briefly, if you have a brief comment, Member Chaplin, Member Renahan, then I'm going to call the question.
I think Member Renahan was first.
Either way.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just really quickly, I mean, I think we can do this. I think we can find some middle ground here. We did it with the property tax with Treasurer Henry. Can we just, put it in the affidavit? When you sign your name, you're saying that you're agreeing to it. I don't think this is, rocket scientist or brain surgery. I mean, this is pretty simple stuff, and certainly mole and conspiracy. We don't even need to go there.
Okay, Member Chaplin, any last comment?
No, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to call the question. Roll call on the proposed amendment of Member Ozog to add a requirement that anybody who would receive funds under this would have to certify that as of the date of their application, they're in compliance with the most recent governor's order. Is that a fair statement of your proposed amendment?
Yes, it is. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, roll call. Starting with Member Ozog.
Member Ozog,
Yes.
Member Pachowski,
No.
Member Renahan,
Yes.
Member Rutledge, Member Selman,
No.
Member Tornatori, Member Zay, Member Chaplin,
Aye.
Member Covert,
No.
Member Desart,
Aye.
Member DeCiani,
Aye. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Member Eckhoff. Member Elliott.
No.
Member Hart. Member Healy. Member Krajewski. Member Larson.
No.
Member Noonan. Eleven nays.
11 noes.
11 nays.
11A, the amendment fails, so we're back to the vote on the original proposal. Had quite extensive discussion, so let's do a roll call on that. I forget who, we'll start with members A and go.
Member Day. Member Chaplin. Member Chaplin.
No.
Member Covert.
Aye.
Member Dessart.
Nay.
Member DeCiani.
Aye.
Member Eckhoff. Member Elliott.
Aye.
Member Hart. Member Healy. Member Krajewski. Member Larson.
Aye.
Member Noonan. Member Ozog.
No.
Member Pachowski.
Aye.
Member Renahan.
Aye.
Member Rutledge. Member Selman.
Aye.
Sorry.
Okay, that is approved.
Chairman, I move on FIO 9120, approval of DuPage County procurement ordinance, funding thresholds, and additional procurement ordinance for credit.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on this item amending the procurement ordinance. Do we have any discussion on this item? Member Renahan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I support, bringing up our department heads to a $15,000 decision-making thing. I just wonder if between that $5,000 and $15,000, maybe they should get the benefit of a bidding process as well, because essentially what this is doing is making 0 to 15,000 no bid. And I'm just not sure that serves taxpayers well, and I'm not sure that serves decision-making well. And so I would actually amend this ordinance to
Before you move to amend, maybe let Nick Kottmeyer comment on that.
Sounds good.
Just to clarify, so the departments under the county board jurisdiction, we have a requirement where we get 3 quotes or more for anything $1,000 or over. And so we will continue to obtain multiple quotes for any services, above $1,000, below 15. So we are not just picking somebody and moving forward.
So if I could just follow up, that's just not what the procurement ordinance says, though. I mean, it's not making the additional changes in the ordinance to support that.
I mean, I can tell you practice-wise, I've got the auditor here as well. We've got the internal safeguards, $1,000 and over, and that's what we've been doing for several years now. Anything over 1,000 is 3 quotes. What this is, and I can tell you the genesis of this change from 5 to 15, this has actually been talked about internally for a couple of years. And it really comes down to when we take a pump in to be repaired, and all of a sudden, once you get in there, the pump is, $8,200 to do it. Now we're faced with violating the procurement ordinance or having an emergency requisition. When we take in a vehicle and all of a sudden the transmission has to be rebuilt. So those are the type of things to do it. And as far as the vetting, that's absolutely part of it. All the departments are aware we have to get 3 quotes for anything over 1,000. So whether we add that in there, whether that's something we can definitely add it in there, but that is the practice we pursue now. I don't know, Bob, if you wanted talking to Bob Grogan, or looking at Bob Grogan, he agrees with everything I just said.
All right, with that in mind, Member Renahan, is there a specific proposed amendment that you like?
I would like to amend this. I'm not quite sure how to, but to include that kind of language in Article 4-101 small procurements, that we actually are including some of the minimum quotation requirements, evaluation factors that we find in 4-102 committee level procurements.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. If I understand it, it would be to add a requirement within those proposals that any amount $15,000 or below that's subject to department head approval without further approval by the board would require that they seek 3 quotes in order to do that. over $1,000. Does that fairly state your proposed amendment?
Yeah, essentially, I just want to make sure that they receive the benefit of some of the bidding process. And if we're saying that we're doing it in practice, I'd like the statute to comply with that.
There's a difference between a bidding process and getting quotes. If everything between $1,000 and $15,000 is going to be bid, that's going to create enormous expense and time lags and not address the concern that I think they addressed. So it's a little bit of a different process. Do you want it to be a mandatory bidding process or that they seek quotes?
Seeking 3 quotes would be, fit my requirement. It just currently, if you read 4-101, it's very arbitrary. You can basically, do almost anything. You have full, decision-making power without having any bidding requirement at all.
Okay, so I think the proposal, is as I stated, which would be that you add the requirement that between 1,000 and 15,000, if it's not subject to higher level board approval, you would want it to add a requirement, formalize the practice that's already in place that they seek 3 bids on that. Is that accurate? 3 quotes, I'm sorry, 3 quotes.
Yes, but they would retain decision-making power at 15,000 and below.
Right, okay. With that, we have a motion and a second on that amendment. Any further discussion on the proposed amendment to the procurement? Member Kajewski.
Three quotes if practical, because there's going to be a couple situations you can't get 3 quotes. I mean, do you guys get 3 quotes on everything $1,000 or more?
We go out and with anything that we purchase, we request 3 or most of the times more than 3 quotes. But if somebody says, I can't quote because I can't do that work, that does count as quote. So we make every effort to get multiple quotes, and that's part of the oversight that finance and the auditor do. But sometimes we only get 2 because we can't get other people to submit.
Okay, any further discussion on the proposed amendment? Seeing none, hearing none on the amendment, starting with Member Rennigan.
Aye.
Thank you. Member Rutledge. Aye. Member Selman.
Aye.
Tornatori. No. Member Zay.
No.
Member Chaplin.
Aye.
Member Covert.
Aye.
Member Desart.
Aye.
Member DeCiani.
No.
Member Eckhoff. Member Elliott.
No.
Hart. Member Healy. Member Kowalski. Member Larson.
Aye.
Member Noonan. Member Ozog.
Aye.
Member Pachowski.
No.
How many ayes? What do we have? We have, all right, so that the amendment is adopted. So now we are back to the proposed ordinance as amended. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, roll call. Start with Member Zay on that.
Member Zay. Aye. Member Chaplin.
Aye.
Covert.
Aye.
Member Desart.
Aye.
DeCiani.
Aye.
Eckhoff. Member Elliott.
Aye.
Member Hart. Member Healy. Aye. Member Kajewski. Member Larson.
Aye.
Member Noonan. Aye. Member Ozog.
Aye.
Pachowski.
Aye.
Renahan.
Aye.
Rutledge. Member Selman.
Aye.
Tornatori.
Okay, all ayes, that's approved. On to budget resolutions and ordinances.
Chair, move on FIO 8220, DuPage County 2020 tax levies for fiscal year 2021.
We have a motion and a second on the tax levy. Do we have any discussion on this item? Seeing and hearing none, roll call.
Member Zay.
Aye.
Member Chaplin.
Aye.
Covert.
Aye.
Member Desart.
Aye.
DeCiani.
Aye.
Eckhoff. Member Elliott.
Aye.
Member Hart. Member Healy. Member Kajewski. Member Larson.
Aye.
Member Noonan. Member Ozog.
Aye.
Member Pachowski. Member Renahan.
Aye.
Member Rutledge. Member Selman.
Aye.
Sorry.
All eyes, that is approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to combine and approve item 2 through 18. These are all annual appropriations, levies, transfers of funds, and debt service fund obligations.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to combine and approve agenda items 10.2 through 18. Any discussion as to any of those items?
I just have one quick question.
Member Cap-
Thank you, Chairman. With the head count, we don't include part-time or temps in that number, right? That I didn't see it in there. We don't include that in those numbers.
Is that full? Do we do full-time equivalents? No, we do not. Only full-time.
Only full-time. So staff could then, in reality, bring in part-time or temps regardless, correct?
It's
Within their budget, right?
Yeah, right, within their budget, right. Okay, great, thank you.
Any further questions or comments or discussion as to any of these matters? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, please.
Member Zay.
Aye.
Member Chaplin.
Aye.
Member Covert.
Aye.
Member Desart.
Aye.
Member DeCiani.
Member DeCiani.
Aye, sorry.
Member Eckhoff. Member Elliott.
Aye.
Member Hart. Member Healy. Member Krajewski. Member Hilarson.
Aye.
Member Noonan. Member Ozog.
Aye.
Member Pachelski.
All ayes.
Okay. Member Renahan.
Aye.
Member Rutledge. Member Selman.
Aye.
Member Doratory.
Okay, all ayes, those are approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move on item 19, approval of the 2021 financial plan.
All right, we have a motion and a second on this item. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, roll call.
Member Zay.
Aye.
Member Chaplin.
Aye.
Member Covert.
Aye.
Member Desart.
Aye.
Member DeCiani. Member Eckhoff. Member Elliott.
Aye.
Member Hart. Member Healy. Member Krajewski. Member Larson.
Aye.
Member Noonan. Member Ozog.
Aye.
Pachelski. Member Renahan.
Aye.
Member Rutledge. Member Selman.
Aye.
Member Doratory.
Did you record Member DeCiani's vote? He is on.
Aye. Nope.
Okay, all ayes, that is approved. On to informational.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to receive and place on file A, county board, B, payment of claims, C, wire transfers, and D, grant proposal notifications.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to receive and place on file those items. Any discussion as to any of them? Seeing and hearing none, roll call.
Member Zay.
Aye.
Member Chaplin.
Aye.
Member Covert.
Aye.
Member Desart.
Aye.
DeCiani.
Aye.
Member Eckhoff. Member Elliott.
Aye.
Member Hart. Member Healy. Member Krajewski. Member Larson.
Aye.
Member Noonan. Member Ozog.
Aye.
Member Pachelski. Member Renahan.
Aye.
Member Rutledge. Member Selman.
Aye.
Member Doratory.
All ayes, those are received and placed on file. And so with great trepidation, I ask, is there any old business? New business. Up, wait, Member DeCiani.
I just want to mention, and I apologize, I don't suppose on the long meeting, but I just want to mention that our restaurants have stepped up. They fed our homeless. Francesco's, Amici, Armand's have fed pads for months. They fed our COVID workers. These guys, I remember when I asked Francesco's if they would help, they're like, we might not be in business, but while we're in business, we're going to do what we can. So they fed thousands of people for free that are homeless. So I just want to thank our restaurants. They've taken a beating. They've dealt with probably the toughest thing that they could ever have thrown at them. And they've stepped up even in adversity to help our homeless and our first responders. So I can't thank our restaurants more. And I have no problem fighting for them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any gentlemen, please. We're not adjourned yet. Excuse me. Well, then you can leave. Any further discussion? All right, without objection, we're adjourned.